What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns back with you with a big episode inching towards the draft. Dane Brugler. We haven't talked to Dane as much this year because the Bears don't have the number 1 pick and they don't have the number 9 pick. They just have the number 10 pick. So, but we're getting close to the draft. We had to get Dane in here, especially because the Beast is out. So, big episode there with Dane coming on. Jeanty, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing real great. Love the Beast. It's a must-read every year. It's become like almost a holiday in the football world because no one produces anything quite like it still. It is an immense amount of information all packed into one PDF that we enjoy, but it is everyone now enjoys more interactive on your phones and so forth.
Well, the nice thing about the interactive version on the Athletic and the Athletic app is you can update it if there's last minute changes or visits or something like that. Somebody gets arrested.
Someone on draft day is on a video doing a gas mask bong.
Yeah. Not us. That was a player.
No.
Yeah,
Larry Tunsil actually still a darn good football player.
Yeah. Traded for the 3rd time? Trade number 3. I think
one of the best left tackles in the game.
I did something different this year. I haven't printed out the Beast yet. I've just been using the PDF to kind of highlight notes in there and write notes on there. So far, so good.
Well, let me.
They made it easier to navigate even the PDF because you can kind of click around now on certain links.
Well, can I read you something? And if you like hot dogs and you're in the Chicago area, or if you're listening from Los Angeles or New York, let me read this to you.
Well, also, if you're in the Chicago area and you don't like hot dogs, then get the hell out of here.
Then, you shouldn't be in the Chicago area. Now, side story, we played a baseball game by Gene and Jude's on River.
Oh, yeah.
Like 2 days ago. And the line was, I wanted one so bad. I haven't had one in a year because I'm never in that area really that much. So we're coming back from a baseball game. Like, we're going to stop at Gene and Jude's. Line out the door. Didn't have time.
Yeah,
anyway,
we play a lot of games over at Trinity, so it's a perfect location.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me tell you about Superdog and the Beast. Let me read this real quick. All right. The Athletic is dropping off copies of the Beast in select football towns. Fans in Chicago, LA, and New York are invited to come read the Beast at iconic spots. Scar's Pizza in New York City. Superdog Drive-In, one of my favorites on Milwaukee Avenue and Devon in Chicago. And Villas Tacos in Los Angeles next week, Tuesday, April 22nd, and Wednesday, April 23rd from 3 to 9 p.m. So if you're listening in Chicago, at Superdog, I know you know where it is. It's the most popular hot dog stand in town, Milwaukee and Devon on the Northwest Side in Chicago. The 22nd and 23rd next week from 3 to 9 p.m. Come get a copy of The Beast.
There's what? That's Tuesday and Wednesday.
Correct.
That's awesome.
So
Superdog and the Beast, though, sounds like some TV show my daughter would be watching on like Amazon Prime or something.
Yeah. Probably a darn good show. So if you want a darn good hot dog from Superdog, my favorite, and you want to read some draft stuff by Dane, our friend, check it out.
Sounds like a no-brainer. That's very cool. All right, so in the meantime, make sure you're following Dane Brugler at DP Brugler and us at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. HogeandJahns.com is where all the merch is. Go check that out. But let's jump in to some of the stuff that you're obviously going to get in the Beast and beyond here as we bring in our guy, the best there is, Dane Brugler, ahead of the NFL draft. All right, the Beast is out. It is bigger and better than ever, more interactive than ever. To me, I always go back to the printout version, Dane, but even that, when I'm looking at it on my iPad, it's easy to navigate with table of contents and flipping around, writing my notes on there. So congrats again for getting through it and pumping it out, because it's just one of the best publications that comes out in sports every single year.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was Awesome. Last week to finally get it out there. Feedback's been awesome. Yeah, the features we made this year to just make it want to make the experience better. And it's 2025, so if we can make it a little more interactive, better for mobile friendly, then I'm glad we were able to do that. So worked out well. Still a PDF if you want to download it that way. But yeah, the feedback's been awesome. So it's been pretty cool.
We're old school guys, so we're PDF form. I got the PDF right here. I have them all downloaded.
I fought for it. I mean,
Thank you.
Please don't get rid of the PDF. Please, God.
There you go.
Well, let's start with this conversation because we have, this won't surprise you, we've spent very little time talking about quarterbacks this year. It's been a little refreshing compared to past years when we have you on this show. However, I do think it is time for us to, especially you bringing you in today, to have that discussion because it's very relevant to how the first 9 picks will play out ahead of the Chicago Bears. So I'll just ask you this way. How many quarterbacks do you think go in the top 9? How many quarterbacks do you think should go in the top 9?
All right, so we're taping this about 9 days out. With what we know right now, my answer would be 1 for both of those questions. You think about, I mean, who should go in the top 10? I mean, I feel good about that. I think there's 1 quarterback that should. Now, how many will? That's where, would it shock me if the Giants took one at 3? No, I think that this is a team desperate for young quarterback, and if they feel like they need to get that guy at 3, that's the direction they'll go. But I think when you talk about quarterbacks in the top 10, you have to talk about ownership because that is such a driving force of this. And I think when you look at the Mara family and their desire they want to win and they want to reshape the quarterback position. And so how much is that the ownership pushing Joe Shane and Brian Dable to, hey, go work out Shedeur again. I mean, no one's done more work than the Giants on Shedeur Sanders. And here they are going to do another private workout. And it's like, all right, if you don't know by now, I think you know. And it's one of those cases where I think it's just ownership really pushing them in that direction to overanalyze these guys to make sure that you have them right. And so, but with where we're at right now, I will say the Giants pass on a quarterback at 3. And then, could we see a surprise with, say, the Raiders at 6, Jets at 7, all the Derek Carr stuff, potentially missing the season with an injury. I still don't think the Saints take one at 9. So if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say right now 1 quarterback goes in the first 9 picks, and then things get a little crazy. We'll see some chaos after that, which I'm all for that. Let's bring the chaos when it comes to these quarterbacks, maybe some trades, moving around, some surprises. But for the Bears' purposes, I think only 1 quarterback comes off the board, which I think is not ideal. You want to see as many quarterbacks off the board as you can, just to push better players to you at 10. But I still think it's just going to be 1.
Going off that, I think all eyes in Chicago, at least with a lot of Bears fans, are on running back Ashton Jeanty. Do you think he makes it to 10? And if not, when do you think the run on the other running backs starts to happen? When do you think Caleb Johnson comes off the board or Marion Hampton?
Yeah, I don't think he makes it to 10. I will say that just talking to people around the league, they think he's going somewhere top 10. Like they don't think he's getting past 10. And this is just such a weird draft in the top 10. You have Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter at the top. That's kind of the top tier. And then let's just take quarterbacks out of it. Just say these are non-quarterbacks. The top tier is those 2 guys. And then that second tier is a drop-off relative to what we would usually find in the top 10. So it's just not a great year to be picking in that 4 to 12 range relative to other years. You're not, Micah Parsons was the 12th overall pick. Like you're not finding a Micah Parsons at the 12th overall spot this year. And so a guy like Ashton Jeanty, who's one of the top 5 players in this draft, I think the Raiders at 5, or the Jaguars at 5, the Raiders at 6. I mean, who knows? We could see the Saints take him at 9. I don't think that'd be too surprising because I think teams are going to look at this and say, yeah, we could bet on a high upside pass rusher like a Shamar Stewart or one of these other guys, or we can take the known commodity even though it is a running back, we talk about positional value and all that, but we feel much better about this guy hitting as opposed to a little more of a project with, this guy over here. So I'd be surprised if he makes it to 10, but if he does, I think that would be the pick. And then when's that next run start? Probably at 20. Like I don't think the Cowboys take one at 12. Maybe they do. Maybe they surprise us. I don't think they do, unless you just absolutely head over heels for a Marion Hampton. But I'd be surprised. I think it's more likely maybe 20 with the Broncos that we see one come off the board. But I think teams are going to, because we've talked the last year, I feel like I've been talking about it, about how this running back class is so deep. So if that's the case, a lot of these teams, and that's how a lot of teams feel, let's just wait. Let's wait till the second round, third round, fourth round. My 7-round mock draft comes out tomorrow on The Athletic, and I only have 2 running backs in the first round, and then I think only 2 in the second round, and then third round, fourth round, fifth round. That's where it just kind of floodgates open, because teams are going to say, let's get our tackle, let's get our pass rusher, let's get our corner, and say I'm fine with RJ Harvey in the third round. I'm fine with DJ Giddens in the fourth round, and I think a lot of teams are going to take that attitude towards the running back position this year.
On your top 100, you have Tyler Warren at number 8 and Colson Loveland at number 11. So not a ton of separation between tight end 1 and tight end 2. You obviously love Loveland. Just compare and contrast those two guys for us real quick, and then what you would picture their roles being in a potential Ben Johnson offense.
Yeah, and I think if Colson Loveland were healthy this entire year, I think there's a good chance he would have finished as my tight end 1. I think just that little bit of, hey, he's got a leaner frame. He was banged up quite a bit. It was a shoulder. It was a concussion. Just that little bit of doubt, like a smaller tight end being, getting beat up in the Big Ten. What's that mean for what it's going to look like in the NFL? So that little bit of doubt is kind of the main difference between why he finished behind Tyler Warren for me. Tyler Warren started all 16 games and was the central part of that offense. I mean, that offense did nothing without Tyler Warren. So I think that's what gives him the edge for me. Now, if you're going to chase the upside, I think you're going for Colson Loveland, because the speed that he has down the seam, his ability as a pass catcher, he has the higher ceiling, in my opinion. Right now, Tyler Warren's a better football player. And so I think that's where the debate comes, is what type of player you want. Do you want, and I don't think either of these guys are strong blockers. I think Tyler Warren's kind of been pigeonholed as this, he can be a traditional prototype, wide tight end, hand in the ground, in line. He's not really that. Like as a run blocker, he's average at best. And it's still, I wouldn't call it necessarily a strength of his game. He can be okay, but I wouldn't call it a strength to his game. And same thing with Colson Loveland. So neither of these guys are above average blockers, but they're above average pass catchers. Warren is he's done it just more consistently compared to Loveland. But again, if you're going to chase the upside, certainly understand why you would have Loveland ahead of Warren.
If the 2 best tackles are gone, if Jeanty is gone, and the Bears are stuck there at 10, and no one's calling to move up, is Tyler Warren worth the 10th overall pick?
Yeah, I think so. And I've come around on this a little bit. At first, I was like, the Bears can't draft a tight end in the first, top 10. Like, that's it can't happen. It won't happen. But the more I thought about it, it's like, all right, yeah, Cole Kmet's still here, but no guaranteed money after this year. And this is not the same, coaching staff that drafted him and paid him. So you think about what Sam Laporta did for Ben Johnson in Detroit and helped kind of the skeleton key to that offense, helped open everything up. Could Tyler Warren be that for Ben Johnson this year? I think that's, you could talk yourself into that. And adding another pass catcher, especially with a team that we think they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. Maybe a third of the time they're going to be running 12 personnel. So you're talking about Kmet and Warren being on the field at the same time, and the different things that you can do with that. So it is the 10th overall pick, a high price to pay, expensive price to pay for a tight end. Absolutely. But again, going back to, this is just one of those, like last year, the Bears got lucky where you had the 2 top 10 picks in the right draft, where you got your quarterback and then you were able to get a stud receiver in the top 10. This year with the 10th overall pick, maybe not as lucky, where it's just relative to other years, not a great year to have a top 10 pick, or at least in that 4 to 10 range. So I think it just, if you are passing on, say, a 1A pass rusher for a 1A tight end, that'd be a mistake. But if you're passing on maybe a project like Shamar Stewart, or a guy that maybe is a projection and high upside, that type of thing, I can understand why you would arrive at the conclusion that, hey, let's just take the better football player. This is a guy who's going to impact us in a big way. It's going to help put points on the board. Yes, 10th overall pick is expensive, but sometimes I think you can't talk about drafting strictly for maximizing the pick based off of chasing upside. Sometimes I think it's the right way to go is take the better football player, and even if that's a tight end or a running back, and that's the position the Bears might find themselves in this year.
If a certain Bears beat writer was considering taking Josh Connerly at number 10, would you call him crazy, or would you be like, you know what, that makes sense? I could see it happening. I could see it working out for a certain team who needs a left tackle.
Yeah, I look, Connerly, he finished 23rd on my top 100,
Yeah.
so not, it's a little bit of a gap there between 10 and 23 for me, but I get it, like this is, especially if Will Campbell, Armand Membu are off the board, Connerly is, you can make the argument he's that next guy for this team. Now, I think Josh Simmons from Ohio State would be in that conversation, but obviously you've got the medical, his interviews are up and down too, so that's, debatable. With Connerly, you feel like you have a player that's ascending. He's a true junior, and not a guy that grew up playing offensive line. He wasn't until a sophomore year in high school, and he was a left tackle all the way through high school and college. So if you're going to project him, I think he can play guard. Teams believe he can play guard as well. So that's a projection. He has only played left tackle, and so if you're bringing him in, and part of this probably, like, what do they think of Omegaji from last year, who didn't look great as a rookie, but in all honesty, should not have played as a rookie coming out of Yale. I mean, it was a year away from being a year away. So do they still feel like he can be the future at left tackle behind Braxton Jones, or do they feel like they need to get more help there? But with Connerly, theoretically, you believe you have position flex, guard, tackle. Jonah Jackson played 4 games last year. Can he give you 17 this year or more? So you feel like you're getting, kind of a 6 offensive lineman who can fill in at guard if needed, help at tackle, be a long-term answer. I would certainly understand. I mean, it would surprise me to see Connerly go that early, but like I said, I think he's an ascending player. He's going to be an NFL starter for a long time. So I don't think I'd be like overly shocked where I would say that was a bad pick.
So Jahns doesn't have to, change the mock that I think he already filed.
No, I honestly, like, it's refreshing to hear a new name at 10, because I feel like we recycle the same names, and like, does Jeanty get there? Tyler Warren, one of the first 2 offensive linemen. I think some of the defensive linemen make sense, whether you want to go with the pass rushers, like a Shamar Stewart, Mikel Williams, or Derek Harmon, a defensive tackle, I think would make sense. But yeah, I know. I think it makes sense to add in Josh Connerly in that conversation as well.
Can I just ask about like maybe strategy in terms of like matching strength and deepness of positions? Like if you take the left tackle or Kelvin Banks, for example, like another offensive lineman at 10, like would it be okay waiting for another pass rusher in the second round, a pretty deep class, the running back, tight end in the second round, because of how deep those classes are? Like, would that strategy make sense to you?
No doubt. And because, again, I think these pass rushers are, like, outside of Abdul Carter, you can poke holes on all of them. And so I don't think the gap is just monumental between the pass rusher you would take at 10 and then the pass rusher you take at 41. I think you can make a case that you're taking a little bit of a step back, but not a huge step back. Whereas with tackle, the gap is probably much bigger. And so in my 7-round mock draft, I actually have the Bears going tackle in the second round, which is always a tricky proposition, because when you look back at, we talk about quarterbacks in the second round a lot and how it's just if you're good enough as a quarterback, you're going first round.
Yeah.
Rarely do we see those second round quarterbacks hit. Jalen Hurts, like he's the exception to the rule. Tackles, it's kind of the same thing. If you're good enough as a tackle, you're going first round. And so if you're, we just look at the tackles that have been taken in the second round, the hit rate is very, very low. But if the right one is there at 39, 41, it could make sense if they went with, say, like a Tyler Warren or someone like that in the first round. But so I would certainly understand if they chased the offensive lineman in the first. And then, because, you think about the running backs, both Ohio State running backs could be on the board at 39. You could have your pick potentially. And then at 41, both Ohio State pass rushers could be there. Landon Jackson from Arkansas could be there. There's a lot of those. In my top 100, I think I had 16, 17 edge rushers. It's just in the top 100. And a lot of them are not like true, blue chippers outside of Abdul Carter. It's just that there's a lot of average. And so, I'm not going to say that you're going to get an all pro or a Pro Bowl type of edge rusher in the second round, but you can get a solid starter, someone that can help make your pass rush better and kind of fill the gap.
One more offensive lineman I wanted to bring up, and I guess this would actually count as a name that's kind of been recycled, but it seemed like Kelvin Banks was, a hot flavor for Bears mock drafts early on in this whole process. And then he's kind of fallen back. You have him in the 20s too. And you listed him under guard. So I want to ask you about that, why ultimately you decided, okay, he's probably gonna be better at guard or better projected there. And what chance do you still see that he could be drafted by a team and end up at left tackle? Because I watched a lot of Texas football and I just felt like he sort of looks like a guard, like just visually. Yeah. I think that's part of the problem, but I still feel like he played well enough there that he can be a tackle at the next level.
I agree. I think that he can be a tackle. Me putting him in my guard rankings is more just, first of all, you're right. The aesthetics of just how he looks and how he's built, I think fits inside better. But I think in order to maximize his strengths, I like him inside at guard. But if a team drafts him to play tackle, I get it. That's theoretically the more valuable position, and he can do it, even if I think his value and upside are a little bit greater inside. But I've never really been a super high Kelvin Banks guy. Like I've always liked him. It's kind of like Shedeur Sanders. Like I always liked him, but I never saw Shedeur Sanders as a top 20 pick. Like he was never that type of guy. Same thing with Kelvin Banks. Like in my top 50 mid-season around Halloween, he was like 18, 19 around there. Like he's always kind of been back half of round one, quality offensive lineman, should be a good pro, just not, I just never saw him in the top 15 like some other people. And I think the closer we got into the draft, I think more and more people have kind of come around to, he's good, just maybe not top 15 good. But you watch him, broad frame. My biggest issue with him was just he was on the ground way too much. You watch the Michigan tape, he's on the ground. You watch the Georgia tape, way too much, falling off balance. So one of the questions, is he powerful enough to really make that move inside? So is he caught between tackle and guard? There's some of those questions. But I think when it's all said and done, he will be a quality offensive lineman, just maybe not a superstar. And that's okay. 32 picks in the first round, maybe 6 or 7 of them might end up being Pro Bowlers. That's just kind of the average. So, I think we have to look at through that lens that you're hunting for starters, guys that can come in, fill a gap, and be a quality starter for a team.
If you're the Bears and you're looking for a slot receiver, someone who could excel over the middle of the field like St. Brown did for the Lions and Ben Johnson's offense, who are a couple players maybe on the top of your list at slot receiver?
Well, first of all, can I ask you what's going on with my guy Tyler Scott? Like, what are his plans for 2025? Because I'm not giving up. I still believe that guy. There's talent there. But what's his role looking like for this season?
Special teams.
Yeah, he's definitely getting pushed back. Unfortunately, his problem since he got, because we get to see practices at least in the summer, and look, he's still getting open. Dude can run routes. There's no question about that. It's just anytime there's a 50-50 ball, it's like more like a 20-80 ball for him. Like he doesn't make those tough catches. And that goes back to even his rookie year when Justin threw a few passes up for him deep and he just didn't come down with big plays. I think that's I think that's been the problem with him so far, and might be a tough thing to figure out. But if he does, then I think he'll get more opportunity.
Yeah, especially when you're an undersized player, and yeah, that is always the tough part when you, especially when guys that have like kind of like everything except okay, he's 5'10", and it's like, all right, well, he's got speed, he's got route running, he's got hands, he's kind of got everything, but maybe he doesn't have the size. And against NFL corners, you can get swallowed up, and that catch point, those windows become so small for the quarterback that if the quarterback's not pinpoint, yeah, it's hard for the receiver to help out the quarterback. So yeah, that makes sense. Man, there's still talent there. I just hope they can get more out of them. In terms of slot receivers in this draft, I mean, another guy that's maybe similar to that, Jalen Noel from Iowa State, who is undersized, but his speed, route running, I really do like his ball skills. I think he catches the ball away really well away from his body. I think he's a second-round pick, which is probably earlier than this team would go in that direction, I would guess. Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech's another one of those guys, also brings special teams value, but has speed, can work open underneath, can be a vertical slot as well. So I think he would make sense, and he's more of the probably early day 3, 4th round range for him. If they wanted to go with maybe a bigger guy, like a Jack Besh from TCU, who is more of the big slot, who is not going to run great, but wins with physicality, can win those 50-50 balls, can post up and go work the middle of the field. So I think it depends on what type of slot they want, but this receiver class has, I think, a little bit of everything, which it's not a great receiver class, but it's pretty solid. I think you're not going to find a Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., or even a Rome Odunze at the top. The top receiver this year would have been my 5th receiver last year. So at the top, it's maybe not as impressive, but there's decent depth, even in 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, if they want to go that direction.
Well, Dane, we know you got to run. Jahns, you got anything else for him before we get out of here?
So, but in your mock draft tomorrow, right? It's Tyler Warren at number 10.
It is, and it's a very Big Ten heavy draft for the Bears. So that'll be the teaser there. It's I didn't go. I wanted to go defensive tackle higher than I ended up going for them. But I think Bears fans would be okay with it, the way it played out, the way the board played out, and the different directions they went. There's no trades, so that it's hard enough to do a 7-round mock and try to get everything fit. Right, so I didn't do any trades, but I think that the way it laid out, if that's the way it happened on draft weekend, I think Bears fans would be okay with it.
Well, you got me looking through your list, like, okay, which of these 2nd-round picks? I mean, we're talking a JT Tuimoloau or Caleb Johnson or Travion Henderson. Can't wait to see the full seven rounds tomorrow.
No, well, I'll be eagerly awaiting the Bears fans that hate it and tell me that it's awful, and it's coming. I mean, it's inevitable.
I know it well. I know it very well. All it takes is one pick they don't like to have a flurry of activity.
How could you take him over him? And it's just like you pay attention to the visits, you pay attention to trends. Dennis Allen likes a certain type of defensive player. Like you try to connect all those dots, and that's not always easier said than done, but I like it because it's an interesting exercise that really makes you think about all these different considerations that the teams are doing right now in the building that maybe doesn't get talked about enough on this side of things. So yeah, it's a really fun exercise.
Oh, well, we'll do our part here and tell our listeners and viewers to leave Dane alone. Okay, just the mock's perfect. Just leave him alone. Yeah. We can't control the rest of them though.
10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Yes.
Dane, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dane. You hear that, Adam? I could stick with Connerly at number 10. Not to give away what might be coming next week, but I'm going to be out of town for a little bit, but stay tuned for that.
When's that mock come out?
Dane's is coming out tomorrow.
Right.
Our final mock draft 3.0 comes out early next week, I think on Monday.
Okay. All right.
You can have Fishbane on later this week to let him go through his mindset and his picks.
Do I have to?
You don't have to.
We're not going to have him on this podcast again until he moves us up the list on his podcast instead of dumping us in, June or July or whatever it is.
July, middle of the
Yeah.
off season. That's fine. Again, you could get a hard copy, read a hard copy of The Beast at Superdog next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 22nd and 23rd from 3 to 9 p.m. at Superdog. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
I know, man. I want to go now. All right. Well, great. Just obvious, always draft insight with Dane Brugler. Good to have him on. Good to have those draft discussions as we get closer and closer to the draft. Before we get out of here, we gotta bring our producer because the biggest sporting event that's happened in the last week or so was obviously the Masters. I was locked in from start to finish on Sunday. Absolutely had to be. My guy Rory McIlroy. I was definitely in the category of people that would have just probably cried myself to sleep if he didn't win. So he pulls it out. What a moment. Incredible. And it was just insane to watch on television. And our producer, Katie Langan, was there on the green on 18. So we have to bring her into the show here, even though this has nothing to do with the Bears, because how many people were actually there on 18 that can say they were there for such a historic moment? And here, let's bring her in now because, Katie, we got to know what that whole experience was like. It had to be insane.
Well, first, I got to switch you guys around or else I'll get messed up. But it was the most insane day I've worked the tournament 3 years in a row now. There was nothing like Sunday that I've ever seen. It was, and I have to correct you guys too, just so in case any of the patrons that I met at the Masters, who there are a lot of fans there of Hoge and Jahns. I was working in Berkman's place. So I was actually in my work location when the putt dropped. But everyone in there erupted and I was on the course for 12, 13, 14. So when he hit it into the water, I've never seen a crowd erupt like that too. Just disappointment. And when they switched the leaderboard to show that Justin Rose had tied it up, because they do it manually, obviously. So no one knows. So I was out on the course for all of that. And you're just like, wow, I cannot believe he might have just screwed this for himself. So it was almost like watching the Bears when you're like, is he really going to do this to himself right now? But it was just incredible. Not a dry eye on the course or in Berkman's when he was giving that speech. And you could just feel that energy all throughout Augusta.
I feel like certain sports moments have such an energy to them, like game sevens in hockey, for example, the Super Bowl, obviously, where that emotion almost comes through the screen. Like I'm watching the playoff with my sons and my second son, Ryan. He goes, my heart's pounding. Like I'm nervous for this moment. And we're watching, thousands of miles away. I couldn't imagine what that nervous energy was like there in Augusta.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if you weren't, I will even say everyone that was even working there was so locked in. Everyone. And yeah, I mean, you could definitely feel it all throughout because it was everyone wanted it for him just as bad as he did. So you're running through every scenario in your head, and when they're walking to the playoffs, and everyone's like, well, Justin had some time on the driving range, a little bit in between, and yeah, it was amazing. Everyone too afterwards, just seeing everyone come together and be so happy for him and celebrate. Even after we closed down, people just in the streets celebrating for him. And then when he went up and hugged Lowry too, like just those moments, and to be able to capture that in his walk all the way through to get that jacket. And it was amazing. And I will say, even the Super Bowl, like you said, that emotion, to be able to see it like that and so intimate, even with all those people around, like the way they capture it is it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
So yeah, there's like those sports moments where like even last night I was going to bed and I was like still thinking about the Masters. Like I was still scrolling through my phone, like watching videos that I hadn't seen yet. And I remember I covered the Ryder Cup at Medina back in 2012, and that was obviously a very disappointing ending for the U.S. But like that, I remember like that stuck with me for probably a full week, like more in a depressing state because they blew it. But like I have to imagine that you're just like you're probably distracted just thinking about.
I am. I have been going on Instagram, and every reel that comes up, I just watched 10 times. I actually had the opportunity to meet the person who runs the Masters Instagram. And I was like, I have to sing you all my praises. Everything you do, you work so hard, because I don't know if you guys were following the social media accounts for the Masters, but every single shot Rory had, she puts it together, and just the emotions and the no phones, like having no one there having a phone and still being able to show that on TV and on social media platforms and everything, just like the raw emotions. It is something that you kind of become obsessed with, that feeling, because you can't get that anywhere else. Even if you're at the Super Bowl, or even I saw it was a clip when Rory sunk the putt and everyone going crazy, and then you swipe to the next one and it's LeBron and him beating like his own personal score, that whatever it is, and all the phones out. So it's like it's two very iconic sports moments, but it's completely different.
Yeah,
just
very different.
everyone taking it in.
One of the best pictures of Rory's, what we'll call it, celebration. This is when he like kind of collapses and just his emotional state. He's on his hands and knees on the green after sinking the winning putt. It was captured by Ken Griffey Jr.
It's crazy.
Yes, yeah. The Hall of Fame baseball player, center fielder for the Mariners, played for the White Sox for a little bit. Like, he's now an AP photographer, and he was there. How crazy is that? Captures one of the most iconic shots of one of the most historic sports moments. It's just kind of a cool fun fact of the whole day.
Yeah. And on practice round days, we're able to go out on the course with cameras, obviously digital ones. And what was really cool was me and two girls I work with were approached by a guy who had his phone, which when you see that, you're like, what are you doing? So he came up and was like, are you guys enjoying the Masters? And we're like, yeah, obviously. And he was like, I'm going to give you this disposable camera. We're asking strangers to just capture any raw moment at the Masters. Like, only rules are they have to be vertical and just authentic. Are you guys in? I was like, yeah. So then he stops filming and he introduces himself, says that he works for the Instagram account Life on Film. And I was like, I've heard of you guys. You guys have like over 1 million followers. He was like, yeah, that's so we're doing one for the Masters. Take this camera. So I have a white disposable camera. And I said to him, I was like, you couldn't honestly be doing this at a worse sporting event, because how are you going to get all these back? Like, no one has their phones or anything. And he was like, yeah, we're setting up a spot for patrons to return them, blah, blah, blah. Takes one of me and the two girls I'm with in front of the clubhouse, the terrace, with all the green and white umbrellas. And I get a text from my dad yesterday, and he sent me the reel, and it's me, like, it's a bunch of flash pictures. They obviously all look super vintage, but just random strangers at the Masters. I think there's some in front of the leaderboard. There's us in front of the terrace. There's one of Scotty close up. And then there's some of the caddies too, but just a really, really cool account. You guys should check it out. Life on Film. But just goes to show like what people can capture there. Just raw patrons enjoying it.
It's like
so are you allowed
wedding
to
party gifts?
Yeah, wait. Yeah, what's that account again?
They do that at weddings, right?
Yeah, Life on Film 27. They got 1.2 million followers. They do a bunch of events, but I just thought, what a cool idea at the Masters to do that. But if he's watching this, I still haven't returned my disposable back, because there's quite literally no way of me doing it because of my hours. I mean, you guys know I was completely MIA all last week, but I will return it. I will.
So you're allowed to take photos, but you can't use your phones? That's the deal?
Yeah. Employees and patrons. So we have to leave our phones completely off property. So wherever your designated parking is, or however you get there, you have to leave it in your car or at home, or if you're staying with the host family at their house. Yeah, so you have to leave that. And then if you're a patron, there's stands when you walk in and you drop your phone there. So
Wow.
yeah, but you can bring disposables or like the point and shoot cameras, which is what I had. Really, really cool pictures. They turn out amazing, because how could they not?
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job of just making it like sort of there's just no way. There's just too beautiful of a place for anything to look bad. Even when the weather sucks some years, it's like, oh, that's still
Yeah,
nice.
I felt terrible on Monday for the people that are there on Monday, the course shutting down, because it's, I mean, people wait years and years just to step foot onto that property. But even then, at least in my location, they come in, and obviously they just got kicked off the course, but they are the happiest people in the world just to be on site, on that, near the grounds even. Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
Very
Well,
cool.
happy you got to experience that. Thanks for sharing it all too. Yeah, Katie was in Augusta all of last week. You know, just a horrible assignment for her. And
Maybe next year we get the whole team out there.
Put me on the list.
that would, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Katie.
All right. Well, wrapping up this edition of Hoge and Jahns. Jahns is actually going on vacation here. So I think it'll be Kevin on Thursday with me. And then you'll be back just in time for the draft.
Yeah. Happy Easter, everybody. Be sure to check out Superdog next week, but we'll be back soon enough. Won't miss the draft.
Yep. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. HoganJahns.com is where you go to get all of our merch. And of course, our accounts at Hogan Jahns on Twitter and Instagram as well. Bonus content always up there. Some clips from the show. Please help support the show by following those accounts, hitting the like and subscribe button on YouTube, and rating and reviewing the pod wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever that is. We are everywhere because of you guys and your support throughout the year. So we greatly appreciate it. We are out of here. We'll be back. I'll be here on Thursday with Kevin Fishbane. Johnsy, enjoy your spring break.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon. See ya.